What is up? This is your LA in a minute, and today is February 9th, 53 years to the day after one of the most significant and deadly disasters in Los Angeles and California history. I'm talking about the 1971 Sylmar earthquake. Let's get into it. By 1971, Sylmar was a quiet but growing suburb of Los Angeles, and there hadn't been a major earthquake in the Los Angeles area since 1933 in Long Beach. But the violent shaking of the earthquake, initially called the San Fernando earthquake, started at precisely 6 o'clock on that morning of February 9th and lasted for precisely 12 seconds, though the residual shaking lasted up to 60 seconds. The damage was swift and widespread, mostly in the mountains and foothill areas and along the LA River. The casualty count was nothing short of a tragedy. There were 58 deaths and more than 1,000 injuries directly attributed to the quake. Many of the deaths and injuries were at the Veterans and Olive View Hospital, which became the unfortunate historic symbol of the earthquake. Most buildings at both hospitals were built before the 1933 Long Beach earthquake, but even the newer segments of Olive View and Veterans Hospital had significant damage. Additionally, multiple freeway overpasses collapsed, the 14, the 5, the 210, which was a stunning rebuke to the human engineering used at the time. Turns out the overpasses and many of the buildings in the hospitals were made of concrete and were just unable to roll with the earthquake's punches. It showed that in Los Angeles in 1971, people were completely caught unprepared. Perhaps most ominously, the upper and lower Van Norman dams in Granada Hills were severely damaged, and the lower dam was close to breaching, which necessitated approximately 80,000 people to be evacuated for 4 days while the water level in the reservoir was lowered. In all, the damage measured $550 million, a staggering amount for the time, but a small price to pay for what could have happened if the dam would have breached. As for why it was initially known as the San Fernando quake and eventually became known as the Sylmar quake, well, it took place on what was called the San Fernando fault zone and led to a 12-mile fault rupture through Sylmar. But the epicenter was actually right around where Magic Mountain is today, about 6 miles northeast of Sylmar. The catastrophe led to the state of California ensuring all dams across the state get retrofitted, as well as new laws calling for earthquake zones to be mapped and setting new design standards for hospitals. Along with the freeway overpasses, Olive View Hospital was rebuilt to newer standards. And the Veterans Administration Hospital was eventually demolished and converted into a park, where a plaque stands today commemorating the event. So in 1971, people in Sylmar, San Fernando, and Los Angeles really weren't prepared for the earthquake. And the damage was incredible, but it could have been much worse. And today, 53 years later, we acknowledge one of the biggest disasters in California and Los Angeles history, the Sylmar earthquake. All right, LA, it's been a minute.